Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Good to see everybody. Looks like Marcy might have been first this morning. At least she's the first one to call first. I am your host, Kevinly Father. This is a morning edition. We're not going to call this one Spilling Covfefe with Kevinly because I never updated what it's called. Let's see what it is called. Does anybody care? Let's see. Let's pull that up. Looks like our audio is going through. Let me share the desktop with you guys, and we're getting an echo. Let's pull that up. Looks like our audio is... There we go. We shut him up. And let's put the sound in my ears. As you guys can probably tell, I'm just rolling out of bed. And Stephanie said, hey, there's something going on. I don't even know what. Something about the Bay of Pigs. And Trump did get a Bay of Pigs award. The veterans of the Bay of Pigs back in 2016, they gave him a little painting. I have the picture, but they're calling the painting an award. So it happened. So he did receive a Bay of Pigs award. Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, but he received a Bay of Pigs. So it did happen. Fact check. Hey, Lynn. Hey, Andy. Good to see you. Doing a morning broadcast just for Andy and Barb if she's out there, and Nell and Neil and everybody else, and the Australians who... Oh, hold on. I think I'm getting a phone call. Oh, from an unknown name. Well, screw you. You're not getting answered. Every unknown name is spam. I don't know why. It's just I don't know why I even have a phone that takes phone calls. I don't answer them. Who answers phones anymore? Okay. Good morning, producer Joanna. Morning, Random. Morning, Marcy. Okay, that ends that phone call. Let's get going with this. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on at all in general. In terms of life. Fact check White House presser with KK Macaroni. No, that's not it. That is not the correct title. I didn't update it. Again, this is a morning session, so let's say.
Delighted to welcome you to the White House as we honor the Cuban-American veterans.
How's his audio, kids? Let me pump him up all the way. We're watching the C-SPAN. So let me know if his audio's low, and I'll mess with it.
Of the Bay of Pigs invasion. Brave people, great people.
Bay of Pigs invasion, Beatlemania, Lawrence of Arabia.
I was honored to receive the endorsement of the Bay of Pigs Veterans Association in 2016, and they gave me a beautiful award, and I have it very proudly on a wall of great importance to me. And I just...
What the hell is a wall of great importance? You mean the wall?
Understood that once
just go ahead and hang it on that fence down at the Mexican border, would you?
Again, I've received your official endorsement and support, and I very much thank you for that. Thank you all very much. That's a great honor. It's a great honor.
Oh, Joanna was listening to Mary Trump's book on tape. We've been working with producer Joanna, by the way, on her reading skills. She's all the way up to M in the alphabet. So that's good. Not so good, we started with J to help her write her first name. So J through M, she's got that shit down.
Today we reaffirm our ironclad solidarity with the Cuban people and our eternal conviction that freedom will prevail over the sinister forces of communism and evil of many different forms. 60 years ago, the Cuban patriots formed Brigade 2506 in a daring effort of many different forms. 60 years ago, the Cuban patriots formed Brigade 2506 in a daring effort to liberate their homeland from the communist Castro regime. Today, we declare America's unwavering commitment to a free Cuba, and you will have that. You will have that very soon. We're glad to be joined.
Producer Joanna, and the brigades stormed the airports and the ramparts, and the ramparts were so steep and slippery and really brave. They held on to the generals and said, "I am wearing leather shoes." Producer Joanna, who reads it? Is it Mary Trump reading it? I hope not.
They will have it, Mike, won't they? Huh? It's happening very fast, actually. We're glad to be joined by Vice President Mike Pence. And you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to have Mike come up, say a few words. He's very much wedded to what you are believers in. He believes in Cuba, and he believes in a lot of help for you. So, Mike, please come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your strong leadership.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Touch.
Privileged
touch.
to join.
Oh, wait, is Producer Rich here? Hold on, guys. We have to go back. We'll go back, and then we'll skip Pence so that we don't have to go through that. Just go back to the beginning here. I want to see if Trump touches the mic needlessly. This is not your standard mic that he uses, the big cardioid. Let's go back and see. Yeah, we just missed it. Hold on. Walks in right there. There it is. Up and there you go. It'll pick up all of it. All right, let's skip past Pence here.
Anthony Gonzalez. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Que viva Cuba Libre. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it. And
he just did it again.
It's great, and I know that all of the great people that I just met that love Cuba so much, they appreciate your help very much. They so stated.
Right back.
And thank
you.
you.
In case Producer Rich
great, and I know
is watching. Let's do it again. Sorry, kids. He might watch this later. There. Up and then
thank you very
right
much,
back.
Mike. We appreciate it, and it's great, and I know that all of the great people that I just met that love Cuba so much, they appreciate your help very much. They so stated. And thank you as well to Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Begun. Thank you very much. Great job. Great. Ambassador to the Organization of American States, Carlos Trujillo. Carlos, thank you very much. And a friend of mine, a great gentleman, just recovered from a very serious bout, but he is strong. There's nothing going to take him down. Mario Diaz-Balart. Mario, thank you, Mario. Great job. It was great. And I know you're 1,000%, and you did it fast. You're strong. You're very strong, Mario. Anthony Gonzalez.
You people are being funny this morning.
Great football player, by the way. Great football player. All the way through the NFL. That's great. And we got Ohio State going. We have the whole Big Ten. We got that done, didn't we, Anthony? And you helped, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Alex Mooney. Alex, thank you very much.
So we've been hearing him lately talk about at his rallies. He's been talking about his friends and how he's lost so many of his friends now that he's become president because they're just too nervous and they can't breathe. When they call him up, they just, sir, they say. And then I tell them, just call me Donald. I'm fine. I'm the same old idiot. You can just call me. If I ever become president, first off, it's going to be a huge conspiracy because I was not born here. I was born in Canada. Secondly, all of my friends, you just call me Kevin. You guys can call me Kevin Lee. No one has to call me Mr. President. Mrs. President, that would be fine, like as a joke, but not an insult. Just something for me to aspire to. By the way, we've been around for 250 years. Still not a female president, but greatest, most exceptional country in the world. Not one female president.
Thank you, Alex. I also want to recognize Mauricio Claver-Caron, who has just been elected as the first American to lead the Inter-American Development Bank. That's big stuff. He's been my friend, and he agrees with what I said.
Mr. Heavenly Father, sir.
He would get up, and when I talked about Venezuela, it was much different than
That's what my dad used to say. When you address me, it's Father, dear Father, sir.
the so-called experts, the experts that have been talking about it for
So if we wanted ice cream or something, we'd be like, Father, dear Father, sir, can may we please have some ice cream? And he would say, thank you for asking correctly. No.
20 years and nothing happens. And when I talked about Cuba, much different. And my friend would get up and say, you know, the only one that's been right about this for 2 years is President Trump. Hence, he's heading this big bank now. It's amazing. See if you...
Because he thought Trump was right. That's why he is the hence. Trump uses hence every once in a while, and he has no concept of how hence works.
Say nice things about the president, that's what happens, right? But congratulations, you deserve it. You're going to be fantastic. Thank you very much. This milestone underscores our...
He's got so many gruntled employees
our
as well.
Historic partnership.
I was hoping that Kellyanne Conway would leave and the book would immediately come out, but she's still Kellyanne Conway. I think I was wrong about her being the mole.
Partnerships across Latin America. On April 17th, 1961, the 1,400 Cuban exiles of Brigade 2506 landed at the Bay of Pigs. They were met
I don't think that's brigade. I think it's brigade.
by fierce airstrikes, by heavy fire, very, very heavy, and 20,000 soldiers from the Castro regime. These brave warriors fought 3 grueling days.
C-SPAN pausing, by the way. I don't,
brutal
looking back from 20 years ago, the C-SPAN clips, they all pause like this. I don't know why C-SPAN can't figure this out. No idea. Now they've started advertising. Now we see ads before the videos, and they're really, really loud. But they cannot figure out why it just randomly pauses.
Castro regime imprisoned
No, he's not going to show the Bay of Pigs Awards because it's on a very, very important wall.
them for 20 months until the United States negotiated their release. Today, we're profoundly honored by their presence. We're joined by these 20 incredible veterans, Brigade 2506 and their families. Could I ask you to stand, please? Because that's really great.
Congratulations, David.
That's really good.
C-SPAN.
You're looking good, too. Looking good. Wow. That's great. Good-looking people in Cuba. That's a good-looking group. I appreciate you being here. This is tremendous. It's an honor. You've been honoring me for 4 years, and now I'm honoring you, and that's a nice way to do it. Well, thank you very much. No, we really appreciate it. We will honor your courage with my administration's determination to defeat communism and socialism, and we will do that in our own country, too. We're in the process of doing it right now, and it has stepped, in my opinion, beyond the word socialism, and we are meeting it with great force. My administration stands with every citizen of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela in their fight for liberty, and we work for the day when this will become a fully free hemisphere, and it will be, for the first time in human history, a fully free hemisphere, and we will have it.
No, prior to white man's arrival in this hemisphere, it was all free. Literally, no one even owned land. You just used it. For the 55,000 years or however long it was since people crossed the Bering Strait. It's a big hemisphere.
We will have it, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. A lot of things are going on. A lot of things are going on right now that I can't tell you about, but I will be soon. The Obama-Biden administration made a weak, pathetic, one-sided deal with the Castro dictatorship that betrayed the Cuban people and enriched the communist regime. I canceled the Obama-Biden sellout to the Castro regime. We will not lift sanctions until all political prisoners are freed, freedoms of assembly and expression are respected, all political parties are legalized, and free elections are scheduled. They will have to go through a lot, but things are happening, and it's very interesting to see the level at which they're happening.
Okay, we'll go find Fauci. After this, we'll watch Fauci slap down Rand Paul at the suggestion of Chris Wilson. Chris, send me the logo version that you sent with your signature on it, please.
Earlier this year, we also demanded the release of human rights activist Jose Daniel Ferrer.
My God, this goes on for another 15 minutes? I hope there's some other speakers.
Today,
Go ahead.
as part of our continuing fight against communist oppression, I am announcing that the Treasury Department will prohibit U.S. travelers from staying at properties owned by the Cuban government. We're also further restricting the importation of Cuban alcohol and Cuban tobacco. These actions will ensure that U.S.
If you're just joining us and you clicked on this because you thought it was coverage of a White House press conference with KK Macaroni, it's not. It's Trump talking about Cuba.
dollars do not fund the Cuban regime and go directly to the Cuban people. Big difference, really. We're also imposing strict sanctions on the dictatorships of Nicaragua and Venezuela. We brought criminal charges against Maduro for his narco-terrorism. The courageous veterans here today bear witness to how socialism, radical mobs, and violent communists ruin a nation. Now the Democrat Party is unleashing socialism right within our own beautiful country. Today we proclaim that America will never be a socialist or communist country, and I'm going to add that word, or communist.
Go ahead. I'm not stopping you.
It's the first time I've ever said that. I've never added the other word, but I think it's appropriate, Mike, when you look at the kind of ideology we're also facing, when you see the rioters, looters, anarchists, and then you see the press, the media, play right into their hands. It's so sad to see the media, the way they're being used. The media is being used like fools. They're being used, and it's very sad to watch. But
He said exactly that on July 15th, 2019, in a tweet. We will never be a socialist or communist country. And then yelling, if you are not happy here, you can leave. It is your choice, and your choice alone. like he's a Jedi talking to a Padawan. This is about love for America. Certain people hate our country. ... So there's more.
we will prevail. It's the first time I've said that, though. Socialism
Again, he's saying
and communism.
it's not the first time he said it.
We did not fight tyranny abroad only to let Marxists will prevail. It's the first time I've said that, though.
Hold up.
Socialism and communism. We did not fight tyranny abroad only to let Marxists destroy our beloved country. Together we will defend our freedom and our American way of life, and we will defend it strongly and successfully, as we've been doing. And as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we give thanks to the countless ways that Hispanic Americans uplift and inspire our nation. They've been so good to me, and I must tell you that the big story is the poll numbers. Trump has gone through the roof with
Go ahead.
the poll numbers from Hispanics. They're all talking about it. I just watched something and read a couple of articles, and they don't know what's happening. I guess they didn't know I love you, but I do. They're incredible people, incredible people. They knew it, but they're all shocked. It hasn't been a time when something like this has happened. Nearly
Trump support amongst Latinos, according to the Wall Street Journal NBC Telemundo poll from 2 days ago, is 26%. Through the roof. It's a very low roof. It's like one of those, it's a chicken coop. Because, you know, the Mexicans, they're always farming and they love the chickens. Don't say that. What is he saying?
60,000 Hispanic Americans serve as police officers. More than 300,000 Hispanic Americans serve in the military. Over half of the Border Patrol agents are Hispanic.
Nick. His name was
And
Nick.
they're incredible. I've gotten to know so many of them.
Nico.
They're incredible. More than 3 million Hispanic-owned small businesses provide jobs for millions of Americans. They're fabulous business people. Hispanic Americans teach their children to love our country, honor our history, and respect our great American flag. Hispanic Americans embody the American dream, and my administration is delivering for you that
Through the
American
roof.
dream like
Look at
nobody
that.
has
That
ever
roof.
delivered for the Hispanic Americans and hopefully for everybody else. We
Go ahead.
implemented the historic tax cuts, regulation cuts, and I recently created the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative to expand economic opportunity. Before the China virus,
Bye,
we
Joanna. Have
achieved the
fun with
lowest
your
Hispanic American
ball hitting.
unemployment rate ever recorded in our country. I mean, like, it's not even close. Last year, Hispanic American poverty reached an all-time low. We built the greatest economy in history, and now we're doing it again. We closed it up. We saved millions and millions of lives, and now we opened it up. And you've been hearing about the
VA?
We have a V. We may have a super V.
Oh, Super V.
And it's coming back fast. We're going to have a very good third quarter. That'll be announced just prior to the election, so I'm putting myself at risk when I say that.
That's why I'm voting
because
early.
It's not good. You can imagine they'll be playing what I just said. They won't say that I'm here representing the Hispanic Americans or Cubans or anything else.
No.
They just say, look
No,
what
they
he
won't.
said.
That is correct.
But I'm willing to take that chance. We're going to have a great third quarter, and next year is going to be one of the greatest economic years we've ever had. We feel very confident based on everything we see. In the last 4 months, 3.3 million is
Speaking of 3.3 million, we've lost 3.5 million jobs permanently. Gone. Some jobs are recovering. They closed. They're coming back. 30% of restaurants are worried that they'll be closed by the end of the year. Or permanently closed moving forward. I mean, 100% of restaurants eventually will close. That's just the way that it works.
Hispanic Americans were hired to fill new jobs, a record. I've taken bold action to defend the right to religious liberty and the right to life. We are protecting school choice for over 1 million Hispanic.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Cuba, but yeah, that's the media. The problem is the media.
American students, such a big deal. In a second term, I will provide school choice to every family in America. We want every American to have a limitless future. Here with us today.
Super V is an arch rival in the DC universe of Batman. It's actually the original name for the character was Orange Blob.
Is Bay of Pigs veteran Umberto Cortina.
And superpowers, nothing would stick to it.
Stand up. Come on.
So Batman would like throw
Who
his
founded a small business in
Batmarine
Miami
at
and
it,
was
and it would hit
elected
it and
to the
just
Florida
no
State
effect
House.
whatsoever.
Umberto, say a few words. Thank you, sir. Good, please. Be careful. I don't want you falling on me. You'll never be the same if you...
This is what Trump supporters never see. This strong man, the guy who's like, you guys pack in, take your masks off, come to my rallies and come in, jam in like cattle. He gets his own podium. Nobody's allowed near this man. He lives in a bubble, and his supporters just don't.
The upper ledge.
Nobody sees it.
Group of heroes?
Okay, more. Okay, so we don't have to put Trump through all this.
Today we thank God for the people.
We got to go find rain.
Thank you very much. Great job. The veterans we honor today are a powerful testament to all that a free people can achieve. In the past 6 decades, you
He's using a teleprompter, by the way, in case you haven't noticed.
have built strong families, thriving businesses, and vibrant communities. Today, we thank God for the blessings we share as citizens of the greatest country on earth, and we hope, pray, and work for the day when the people of Cuba can finally reclaim their glorious destiny. It will happen soon. Thank you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
What about Cuba? Can God bless Cuba too? Yesterday you blessed the United Nations. Does Cuba not get a God bless? Good job, Tree. he gonna on his face? Is he gonna do it? Wow, this goes on for a while. Yeah, there's the social distancing, everybody. There's no virus. It's not happening. Look at freaking Pence is there 1.5 feet from people, talking just right into his face, you know, as one does during a pandemic. There's Mark Meadows. Oh, there's a guy with a mask. He's got to be 140. Is he going to keep it on? Yeah, he kept it on. Good. I thought he might pull it off for a second there. There's Mark Meadows. We're following Mark Meadows. Just shaking hands. Everybody's shaking hands. None of this ever happened, people. We just crested 200,000 dead, and it was all in your mind. You didn't see anything. Oh, my God. Touchy touch, 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 touch. Touch, touch. What world do these people live in? I'm washing my fucking bananas. Yeah, look at Pence shaking hands, touchy touch, taking selfies, signing things. The guy's 6 inches from his face, breathing directly into him, with his mask hanging from his ear. What the fuck do you have a mask on for, buddy? Why? Did they all get tested coming in here today? By the way, just because you're tested on the 20-minute test does not mean that you don't have it. There's 100 people in there that have it. 6 of them test negative. By the way, that would mean 94% of them tested positive, and I don't think that's how that works. Let's get rid of that. Let's go find Mr. Paul. Let's see. This would be on the White House Coronavirus Task Members Testify, and we'll watch it from the beginning and see if it works. Do we have Rand Paul? We'll search for Rand and see what comes up. Randomized grandchildren. Rand Paul. Let's see what we can find here. Pull up. Yeah, the staff gets tested daily. I don't know that everybody coming into that room got tested. It's not going to allow me to search.
The tribal health system is at its own jurisdiction for purposes of allocation. When we talk about that, the first phase.
It's not allowing me to search. Hold on. But we can find it on Twitter if we have to. Let's watch live and see if we can go back.
Alaska Native that.
Okay, so that is live. That was not the. Here's the real feed. Okay. Let me see if it'll let me do it now.
Are no longer having the pandemic
There
because
we go.
now. No, I mean, regret to compare cares out of very little. Jersey and Connecticut and Rhode Island, social distancing is virtually impossible, such as Brazil.
These are not particularly important. If you can do it, great.
Democrat from home.
I appreciate your comments, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Baldwin.
Okay, so that'd be the end of Tammy and the beginning of Rand coming up here. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to grab myself a refill, and I'll be back. So you guys, let me give you something else to watch in the meantime. Here you go. Let's pull this up, and I'll find out who Fox and Friends were talking to this morning, and you guys can watch that. September 23rd.
Ahead of Fox and Friends, and that begins now. Have a good day.
Let's see who they're talking to.
The decision's going to be announced on Saturday, 5 o'clock on Saturday, at the White House.
Supreme Court vacancy has become maybe the most important issue.
Is that Marcia?
A couple of hours ago, apparently the family.
Quiet. Nancy. Oh, here's Stray Gowdy. You guys can watch Stray Gowdy for a moment, and I will go get myself something to drink, and then there you go.
Well, the president's right. I mean, you make one person happy and
Hey, happy birthday, Christopher Ryan. Good job being born. Thank your mother.
lots of people upset, and then you draw scrutiny to that person. Why'd you pick them and not someone else? But, you know, Ansley, we don't necessarily need the list. We know who Joe Biden has opposed in the past. John Roberts, who's the most moderate part of that conservative bloc on the Supreme Court. Biden voted against him. Can you remember the last GOP nominee that Biden liked? It was David Souter. David Souter's one of the most progressive justices we've ever had. So you can just look at who Biden has liked and not liked in the past and have an idea what kind of jurist he'll pick.
All right. So the question is, the Republicans are going to name somebody Saturday at 5 o'clock, the president from the White House. Now, the Republicans said we got 51 people who are going to give it a hearing and cast a vote. If everything goes well, they'll cast for this nominee. The response from the Democrats is off the charts. Get rid of the filibuster, pack the court, make Puerto Rico a state.
Impeachment.
And Joe Biden will not commit to any of this. He's been told, and evidently they're mad at Markey, they're mad at Nadler for even bringing it up, about packing the court. If he's that moderate, it should be an easy answer. In fact, if he remembers what he said, it should be even easier. Here he is in 2019.
I would not get into court packing. We had 3 justices. Next time around, we lose control. They had 3 justices. We began to lose any credibility for the court has at all. And so I would not pack the court.
So that's a pretty logical answer. Why can't he repeat that in 2020?
Well, he may not remember what he said. That's a possibility. The other possibility is he's just beholden to the left. We've had the same number of justices for 150 years. 9 has been just the perfect number for this country for 150 years. If you don't like who the Supreme...
This country is 250 years old, by the way. Fun fact. So that's enough of racist Tintin. Let's go to... Rand Paul.
Senator Paul.
Senator Paul.
Initially, government officials were honest enough to admit that the goal of mitigation efforts, aka lockdown, was to flatten the curve. But the area under the curve, the total deaths from the virus, would likely be the same. In other words, the lockdown was to mitigate the spike in viral deaths so our hospitals would not be overwhelmed, but the same amount of people would likely die with or without the lockdown. The media, and frankly government officials, seem to have forgotten this important caveat. Flattening the curve morphed into a belief that we could change the course of the pandemic with an economic lockdown. This is unfortunate and has led to the protracted lockdown recession we are currently mired in. It's important that we examine the data, learn from the data, and try to avoid the man-made aspect of this calamity in the future. To those who argue that the lockdown flattened the curve in New York and New Jersey, the evidence argues otherwise. New York and New Jersey wound up with the sharpest spike or highest death rate in the world at over 1,700 deaths per million. In contrast, Sweden had a relatively soft...
Because we didn't have testing? Yeah, you can't look at the rate of death in New York because they only tested the people that died and the very sick people. But yeah, no, many, many, many more people in New York had it. And subsequent testing with the antibodies has shown that. So no, just no.
Softer touch. Few mandates and mostly voluntary guidelines. Sweden's death rate ended up about a third that of New York and New Jersey. Some might argue that Sweden and New York and New Jersey are different populations, perhaps. But even the average death rate for the U.S. is now greater than Sweden. In fact, the U.S. death rate is quite comparable to less developed parts of the world where social distancing is virtually impossible, such as Brazil, Bolivia, and Ecuador. Which brings us to an important question. Is man really capable of altering the course of an infectious disease through crowd control? The statistics argue a resounding no. The evidence argues that mitigation efforts have failed to...
No, this is... South Korea has 366 people who've died. They have crowd control. China, they lock shit down. They're doing much, much, much better than we are.
Flatten the curve, that most countries, regardless of public health policy, suffered a significant spike in deaths and then a gradual decline. Now, some will argue, what about Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan?
Singapore.
Each which have had extraordinarily low death rates.
Yes.
Hong Kong, Taiwan, and South Korea certainly enforce stricter quarantine and contact tracing rules than the U.S., but Japan...
He's about to say something racist, isn't he?
Japan's rules were largely voluntary since their prime minister lacks the legal powers to enforce a lockdown. One explanation for the low death rate in much of Asia is that the population may have a higher degree of exposure to coronavirus colds, and therefore have more pre-existing cross-reactive immunity. If scientists were interested, there is a fascinating...
Yeah, but that wouldn't explain worldwide why that happens. It doesn't explain, what is it, I saw the number, 1/180th death rate from South Korea. And some of the countries in Asia, I mean, if that would, it would be universal across Asia, but it's not.
Field of inquiry looking at susceptibility to COVID-19 and assessment of whether people or not have pre-existing immunity to similar coronaviruses. In fact, pre-existing cross-reactive immunity to coronavirus may explain why we have so many people that have very little symptoms or asymptomatic. Well, there's still many things we need
That is true, actually. That it could be the reason.
to learn about this pandemic. It's important that we, the people, not simply acquiesce to authoritarian mandates on our behavior without first
I'll
making
explain
the
what he's talking
nannies.
about there. So, about a quarter of colds are caused by coronavirus. So the cold, we just call it, oh, you're feeling under the weather. You've got a sniffles. You've got whatever. We can call that the flu. The flu typically has an upset stomach involved as well. But when you just got a head cold or whatever, about a quarter of the time, that's a coronavirus. Then it can be other types of viruses as well. We just group them all together and we call it the cold. It's just, we're very inexact when it comes to that science. So the supposition is the reason that some populations or some people, we can't explain, like some people just, they handle it better. And some people are 29 years old and the coronavirus kills them. So the theory being that if you've had previous exposures to coronaviruses from colds or otherwise, we've had about 7 coronaviruses that we actually have known about and dissected. There are there are millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of coronaviruses out there, but we haven't spent enough time documenting them all, and we really should, because the theory being that if we, by the way, the U.S. government was doing that, and Trump cut the funding recently, cut the funding this year. I think there was a project called Predict, where they were actually researching the bats in China, trying to find these coronaviruses in advance, because if you get enough coronaviruses, you know more about them, and you can create a vaccine or that may in fact have prevented this whole thing from happening, because we would all be vaccinated for coronaviruses. And if this virus is similar enough to other coronaviruses, our body's already got a built-in immunity to it. Everybody says immunity, but it's the wrong word, but I'm just going to say it for the purposes of keeping it simple. That your body builds up the antibodies immediately because it's already fought off a less effective coronavirus, like the cold. So that's what he's talking about, and that's a theory. Roughly 30% of the population has some sort of immunity to the coronavirus because of previous cold viruses, but it depends on your population, where you are on the planet, etc., etc. However, since the 1970s, that wouldn't really make any sense to just be limited to certain populations, because we have become a global economy. When people get sick with the bird flu, SARS, swine flu, etc., it covers the world. The Spanish flu, I mean, it's of course much longer than just the 1970s, but the 1970s is sort of when serious air travel kicked in and we get global pandemics. And I'm not just talking about pandemics of serious diseases. We have all kinds of, the flu, for example, just goes around the world, which is a serious disease, but certainly not to the level of coronavirus. That being said, that's what he's trying to say. Let's move on. And if anybody else has something to say about that, let's move on.
State prove their hypothesis. As for now, what we do know is that New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Rhode Island still allowed the highest death rates in the world.
Allowed.
We also know that Sweden, who enforced few mandates, ended up with a death rate 1/3 of New York and New Jersey.
Because we didn't have tests. That you can't look at the death rate when you don't have testing. Sweden has had testing. We did not have testing enough back then. I mean, the population of New York City alone, Sweden has what, 5 million people? 5.1 million? Something like that. Could be 13 million. Hold on, let's just check. Let's just check, because I've been wrong before. Population. Okay, I'm going to find the right place on the keyboard, and then I'm going to type. Population of SW, there it is. Sweden, 10 million. 5 million, you idiot. One of those countries has 5 million people, I swear to God. New York has more than 10 million people, just the city.
We also know that the overall death rate for the U.S. now is essentially equivalent to that of South America, where social distancing and mitigation efforts are virtually impossible. Dr. Fauci today.
Finland and Norway both have populations of 5 million, which wasn't what we were talking about. But I will go ahead and claim that.
Today you said you are not.
The point of that, though, when you look at the excess death for Finland and Norway, either separately or apart, so that they're equal population to Sweden, it's nowhere near the excess death rate in Sweden. Sweden has suffered many, many casualties because they decided to go herd, and they actually never really went herd. And people there are just doing social distancing. As many, now the restaurants in California are opening up. They're allowing people to eat inside restaurants right now. No, nothing has changed. We know that the virus likes to spread in indoor spaces. I'm not eating inside. No.
For economic lockdown, yet your mitigation recommendations from dating to baseball to restaurants to movie theaters have led to this economic lockdown. Do you have any second thoughts about your mitigation recommendations, considering the evidence that despite all of the things we've done in the U.S., our death rate is essentially worse than Sweden, equivalent to the less developed world that is unable to do any of the things that you've been promoting? Do you have any second thoughts? Are you willing to look at the data that countries that did very little actually have a lower death rate than the United States?
Yeah, he made up his... Oh, here we go. Dr. Fauci's had just about enough of Rand Paul. Basically calls him a moron. Oh, well then, hold on. Spoiler alert!
You know, Senator, I'd be happy at a different time to sit down and go over detail. You've said a lot of different things. You've compared us to Sweden, and there are a lot of differences. And you said, well, you know, there are a lot of differences between Sweden, but compare Sweden's death rate to other comparable Scandinavian countries. It's worse. So I don't think it's appropriate to compare Sweden with us. Yes, we have... I think in the beginning, we've done things based on the knowledge we had at the time. And hopefully, and I am, and my colleagues are humble enough and modest enough to realize that as new data comes, you make different recommendations. But I don't regret saying that the only way we could have really stopped the explosion of infection was by essentially, I want to say shutting down. I mean, essentially having the physical separation and the kinds of recommendations that we've made.
But you've been a big fan of Cuomo and the shutdown in New York. You've lauded New York for their policy. New York had the highest death rate in the world. How could we possibly be jumping up and down and saying, oh, Governor Cuomo did a great job? He had the worst death rate in the world.
No, you misconstrued that, Senator, and you've done that repetitively in the past. They got hit very badly. They've made some mistakes. Right now, if you look at what's going on right now, the things that are going on in New York to get their test positivity 1% or less is because they are looking at the guidelines that we have put together from the task force of the 4 or 5 things of masks, social distancing, outdoors more than indoors, avoiding crowds, and washing hands.
Or they've developed enough community immunity that they're no longer having the pandemic because they have enough immunity in New York City to actually stop.
I challenge that, Senator, because I want to, please, sir, I would like to be able to do this because this happens with Senator Rand all the time. You were not listening to what the director of the CDC said, that in New York it's about 22%. If you believe 22% is herd immunity, I believe you're alone in that.
There's also the pre-existing immunity of those who have cross-reactivity, which is about a third of the public in many estimates from studies, which would actually get you to about 2/3.
I'd like to talk to you about that also, because there was a study that recently came out that pre-existing immunity to coronaviruses that are common cold do not cross-react with the COVID-19.
Thank you, Senator.
Well, there we go. I was unfamiliar with that study, but yeah, so it's not a thing.
Senator Paul. Senator Murphy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other senators we need to watch here? There's all kinds of people. You guys can't see it on the screen. People put stars when they create clips. Let's see, domestic production, critical medical supplies. Let me see if there's anything in the stars here that you guys might be interested in. Vaccine process approval, Gerard Redfield, Patty Murray. Yeah, people starred this already. Okay, that's about that. So we got a bunch of other stuff to get to as well. Today, there will be a Trump propaganda conference at 5 p.m. It's what it's set for right now. Let's verify that because, you know, how it works. It'll be 5:30 or whatever. Let's see what's on the schedule here. So 6 p.m. now. Okay, so 6 p.m., so 3 p.m. Pacific. It'll probably be later than that, although that late in the day, he might want to get this out of the way so he can have his cheeseburgers. I don't know. Selena's here. Sorry for showing up so late. Sorry if this already came up, but I heard Fauci was up for Times Person of the Year. If that happens, how many seconds before Trump fires him? Trump can't fire him. He can shut him out, but he can't fire him. He actually likes Dr. Fauci because Dr. Fauci used to say really good things about him until yesterday when he said, just look at the statistics. Follow the statistics. So there's more if you guys want to watch that on your own. My voice is already wearing out, and I have a voiceover to do today, and it's kind of a big one. So I better do that and get my day going. But we will cover the president later, and yeah, that's about it. Let me just see if anything else is going on that we need to pay attention to right now. So we did the Bay of Pigs remembrance. Yep, that's it. You guys be good. We will talk later. Thanks again to new PayPal. Actually, I think he's Greg Alexander. He was a PayPal before as well. But thanks again, Greg, for helping support the broadcast. If you want to help support broadcasts like this, which usually are better, but I just got out of bed, then go to kevinleefather.com. And you can do it there. You can become a patron, and you can get your name in these really cool closing credits.
Kevin, thanks for that.